join us today from wherever you're joining from. Welcome. I'll create a quick context. This webinar is brought to you by Consumer Advocacy and Empowerment Foundation, CADEF. CADEF is a not-for-profit organization dedicated to consumer protection through education, policy advocacy, clean energy solutions, green economy, climate change, and digital finance, amongst others. I am Lovely Nokafor. I'm the Director of Programs here at CADEF, and I'm honored to be your moderator for today. So please sit back, relax, and let's dive in. Today, we'll be discussing a critical topic at the heart of the global effort to solve the pressing issues around energy challenges. I'm not going to talk a lot about this. You know why? Because yesterday, everyone, or maybe a lot of us in the country, let me not say everyone, because sometimes it feels like some people don't feel the heat, some other people feel. But I mean, there was a total, is it a blackout or a great failure, whichever one? But I mean, the heats defined it for a lot of people. This issue impacts nations worldwide. I mean, it's not just Nigeria, but Nigeria is feeling it. And this has brought, I mean, Nigeria, to a great extent, has had the highest proportion of people lacking adequate access to reliable electricity to some extent. So today, our focus is on the distributed energy resources, the DER advantage, turning energy deficits into renewable opportunities. We'll explore how renewable energy can be harnessed to transform these challenges we face into actionable opportunities for growth and sustainability. And I tell you, we are privileged to hear from very distinguished experts on this issue who provide valuable insights. Each of them has a very unique and yet interconnected perspective on this vital subject. I'll start with Mr. Bolaji Jediro. He's a seasoned uh, systems analyst and an IT trainer with over 14 years of experience in business process automation, cybersecurity, digital forensics, and renewable energy technologies. He's currently at the Lagos State University, and he develops innovative IT solutions, mentors students, and facilitates courses like cybersecurity, digital marketing, and so on. The next speaker is Dr. Adedoyin Mary Abosede. She's the sub-dean at the Faculty of Engineering at Lagos State University. She's a distinguished engineer, a scholar, a researcher with over 14 years of experience. She holds a PhD in electrical engineering, and she has received numerous awards and fellowships. I'll go to the next speaker. He is Mr. Joseph Nyang. He's the Chief Technical Officer at Just Stand Out Limited. Mr. Joseph Nyang is a visionary leader with over 15 years of expertise in renewable energy, agriculture, ICT, and brand management. As co-founder of Just Stand Out, he specializes in delivering cost-effective renewable energy solutions, including solar microgrids and EPC services, while also co-founding Light Up a Precious Life, a not-for-profit providing energy to public institutions like schools, orphanages, hospitals, etc. We have as well the Executive Director of Consumer Advocacy and Empowerment Foundation, our very own Professor Chiso Ndupe Okafo, who will be setting the context for this discussion just in a few minutes. I'll tell you a little bit about Prof. Prof is an educator. She's an information technology expert, a serial entrepreneur, a software developer, a motivational speaker, and an author. She has been in higher education and advocacy for over 33 years. She's a professor in business and information. She was the sub-dean information technology and also a curriculum designer. I could We'll be hearing from Prof. Why is the topic of distributed energy resources so critical for Nigeria at this time? And what does it really mean for energy sustainability in the country? What exactly is CADEF doing in the energy sector? I mean, these are some of the things she's going to talk about. Over to you, Prof.
Good morning, everyone. Maybe some of us are joining us from. It's my pleasure to welcome everybody today to this seminar, the Distributed Energy Resources Advantage, turning energy deficits into renewable opportunities in Nigeria. We all know that the current landscape, somebody was counting this year, yesterday made it the 12th national grid failure that we've experienced in Nigeria. And so we all know that access to reliable electricity in Nigeria, period, on at Consumer Advocacy and Empowerment Foundation is what can we do to equip consumers and help consumers to become more energy efficient. And what happened was, as we were exploring, either through advocacy, with issues with the discos for various consumers, and looking at consumer rights, the opportunity to explore further distributed energy resources, specifically solar energy, came forth. And at CADEF, anything that concerns the average Nigerian concerns us because we are all consumers. And so the opportunity working with the PI fund, and we were able to come up with der.cadef.org. And on this website, what we've tried to do is educate. A lot of people hear about distributed energy. Most people don't know what it is. It goes beyond bioenergy. It goes beyond hydro energy, and it goes beyond solar energy. And so what we do is exactly. So not only is our electricity challenges, our internet is also a challenge here in Nigeria. And those are the things that CADEF is going to look into in the future, if God permits. So as I was saying, we do understand the challenges of energy, electricity, access to electricity in Nigeria. And we know that many small and medium enterprises, which is over 70% of the companies that exist in Nigeria, are small and medium-sized enterprises, rely on petrol-powered generators. The rising cost of fuel compounds the issues. It has increased cost across board. Individual households are facing the challenge of having reliable electricity. So what is DER? So we decided that we need a solution of providing and educating consumers, because an informed consumer is an intelligent consumer. And what we have done on this website is to talk about decentralization and reliable energy, which is using solar for solar microgrids, not only in rural communities, but in general in communities at large. This can empower not just the agricultural sector, it can empower small, medium enterprises to have reliable energy. It is cost-effective and scalable. So what that means is that you can buy as much as you can afford and build up on it as time goes on. We looked at policy and investment priorities in Nigeria and the opportunities government is providing. We're encouraging government through our intervention activities to increase and implement tax incentives, to introduce more import duty waivers, to have financing schemes for ER adoption, to even talk about net metering and feeding by providing the right technology on their end. We also speaking that we need to increase the private and public partnerships, the PPP, and collaborate more on solar microgrid projects in underserved areas. So our role at CADEF as a consumer advocacy and empowering organization is to identify and provide solutions. So on the DER website, which you can go to, you'll find information on the solar maps. What are the potential solar energy by region? Identify those and see what your region says. Do you have 5 hours of sun or 8 hours of sun? What is your region providing? We're also providing a lot of educational information and financing opportunities. We're in the process of identifying and vetting professionals, vendors and installers in our professional directories. So we're encouraging all vendors to register so that we can, through a process we developed, to vet those vendors and installers, as well as consultants. So we are engaging in call to actions for more policy reforms, mobilizing stakeholders to be part of this. One person or one organization cannot do this. I want to take this opportunity to acknowledge and appreciate all the speakers that are going to join us today and to say thank you, thank you, thank you. I also want to thank all the listeners that as we move on and as you listen, take notes. Write your questions if you have any on the chat box. At the end of the presentations of our speakers, we will engage them on the questions you may have. Thank you so much. Lovely.
Thank you very much, Prof. Thank you for that introduction. Something you said, an informed consumer is an intelligent consumer, and I'm adding an empowered consumer. Thank you very much. As we continue with the webinar, our aim is really to build on some of the things you've spoken about, some of the things that CADEF is doing to foster meaningful discussions and drive actionable solutions. You talked about the DER website, and it will be good for everyone listening to take the opportunity to check the chat box to basically get to understand what Prof is talking about. So you just go there. There's a lot of information. There is just a lot of things you'll find that will help you in taking very informed decisions. And something else Prof said, professors, how they speak. So she said, as you listen, take notes. They love for people to take notes. So please take notes because you will need it for the future. Now I'm thrilled to call on the next speaker, Mr. Ojediran, who will be sharing with us on the topic, next step forward, going beyond grid failure to grid integration. Welcome, Mr. Ojediran. Thank you once again for accepting to provide your insights on this topic. You have the floor, please.
Thank you. Thank you for having me today. And the introduction given by Prof is so so very important. In fact, I'll be doing some hands-on, if I'm permitted, on the site. That is the sites are quoted by Prof, which is very, very important. At this point in time, well, I'll just start up. Thank you for having me. And my intention, actually, for this discussion today is to look at three critical areas, actually. The first is to look at the current grid situation. We need to understand what is actually happening. And coincidentally, yesterday, like Prof said, marked the 12th time that the grid will collapse in this year alone. And we will get to see what is the implication of this collapse, because most people just feel integration. And of course, what are the numerous benefits of the modernized grid? Look at the first, 62. That was when the Nigerian electric grid was installed. Well, as at that time, the population of the country was just about 46 million, as you can see. But currently now we have gone to about 234 million, meaning that the capacity, the infrastructure put in place as at that time, the percentage of population is just about 20% of our current population. Now, the same grid that was installed years back to support just 20% of our population is expected to serve the current population that we have. Now, we know over time there have not been significant infrastructure investment as regarding the national grid, which makes the current capacity of the grid to just be about 4,500. And I even learned that in reality is even far lesser than that in reality. And why? Well, we have said even between 2017 and 2022, apart from the 2024 issue, we have had the grid collapse about 46 times. I mean, I'm going to show you a chart, a table actually after this, to see the amount or the numbers of collapse we have had comparable to other countries that are of the same population range. And I quickly just go to that. With this chart, we can see with this that Nigeria has experienced about 98 collapse. I'm benchmarking with 2022 actually, not even considering this year. So if you have to consider from 23 to 24, it's going to increase. But benchmarking with 22, according to the available data, Nigeria, our national grid, has collapsed about 98 times with our population of about 213. Now, compared to Pakistan also, who has about 235, that is even lesser, which is even 84. Meanwhile, you have a country like Brazil that up till date has only 4 collapses. You can just imagine. And if you have a country like Philippines having just about 12 collapses. And of course, the primary sources of energy should also be something of concern. I have highlighted on this table the renewable energy in red. You can see that countries with higher renewable energy within their energy mix, countries like India, they experienced just about 28 collapses ever since till 2022, which shows to us that we need to move further. Meanwhile, look at Nigeria. We just have about 2% of renewable energy as part of our own energy mix. Now, this is showing to us, this is an indication that the higher our focus on renewable energy mix, the higher on the adoption of DER. Now you can even see with this chart too, that the DER adoption, the distributed energy resources adoption of Brazil is about 8.6, which is the highest of this category of countries, which of course will show to us why they have a lesser grid collapse. They have a grid collapse of about 4, and the adoption rate is about 8.6. Imagine if we move to this level. And of course, I can tell you with the fact that we have up to now, for every energy collapse, the grid collapse, we lose about 4 to 7 to 7% of our GDP on this collapse. So technologies, small-scale energy generation means that are very close to the point of use. These are what is called, these are what are referred to as the distributed energy resources. And of course, we have different mix that make up the DER. We have the solar panel, we have the wind turbine, we have battery storage, and we have demand response technology that provides energy just for specific purposes. And these have been proven over years to be more resilient and to even be a more sustainable energy. Now, how does this refer to, how does it, what is the significance of grid integration in energy transition? In the course of preparing for this discussion, I had interactions with some of my colleagues and friends also. Somebody said something very critical that, this transition from grid failure to grid integration is more like changing the direction of a train. When a train is usually a bi-directional means of transportation. It's not like your car that you can turn 360 degrees as the case may be. So, but it has to take a very purposeful, deliberate effort in terms of this direction. So when we are talking about moving from a grid failure to grid integration, it has to be purposeful. It's not just something we wake up one day and find ourselves that, oh, we have integrated our grid. No, it has to be something purposeful. It has to be consistent steps taken over time to move us from this state of collapse to the state of integration. And of course, at this point of integration, we are looking at better management of our energy supply and demand. Currently now, there is one of the issues with the energy distribution is that we don't have an effective way to manage supply and demand. When energy is supplied, it is obvious that it doesn't meet up with the demand of energy. Meanwhile, the point of generation is also there, which is generating so much more that is not getting to the demand point. So when we are generating so much energy that is not getting to the demand, of course, there is a lot of loss, lot of wastages. In fact, by some information getting in from yesterday till today, that one of the reasons why the collapse happened yesterday was also because of the case of this management issue. Now, but by the time we are moving to integration, what we are talking about is we are going to be having more enhanced capacity. And of course, to every man on the street in Nigeria, what that means is that every individual that demands for energy is able to plan appropriately. You know that if you are getting 12 hours of energy, you will get 12 hours of energy at the time that you have demanded for it. And you're able to work with that based on your current budget. And when you're able to get demand for 24 hours, you're able to get that as well. So, that gives us more flexibility for small-scale enterprises. Of course, they're able to plan, they're able to scale, and they're able to make projections that are much more effective. So it is very important that we take this very, very critical and very, very deliberate. Of course, what are the current limitations? We have explained some of them, and I just want to point your attention to some that, the frequent outages, is not just only an infrastructure piece. One reason is infrastructure, but of course, there is also the part that every individual must also play, or we have played actually in all this. And I'm going to be explaining as we move on further. What are the actionable steps that we can take? What are the actionable steps that we can take to move towards grid integration? Of course, the first of it is to upgrade our infrastructure. Well, I would say that currently the government is taking some steps towards that. There's a presidential power initiative that is currently ongoing, which is the first phase of the integration process, whereby the current grid capacity, about 150 gigawatts will be added to that capacity, and more substations will be built. I think from about 14 that we have currently that are very active to go to about 25 of them are scattered around the country. So it must be deliberate. It must be deliberate. But of course, I need to also say this. When we talk about the integration, we need to see the grid like a very busy highway. See the grid, our current grid, as a very busy highway that is congested currently. That is what we have. Now, when we are talking about integration, we are talking about now introducing more lanes. to a congested grid. Imagine you are in a grid, a lockdown on the road, and a traffic jam on the road, and everybody is just locked. Now imagine we put in 2 extra lanes by each of the flow, whether the tow or the flow. It means that it's going to lessen the burden on the congested highway. Then others can make room, have turns to decongest the highway. And of course, we have our progress, we can move. So that's what we are talking about. So what the government is currently doing is to look at the highway, which is one, to probably increase, the size of the highway. But the other point which I want to raise in terms of the actionable steps to grid integration is that there's a need to actively promote, VER adoption through incentives and community engagement. This is very critical. And that point is that looking at the current highway, which is congested, the government may be expanding the route, but this second point is more like we introducing extra lanes, new extra lanes that were not there, not expanding, new extra lanes that commuters can take as alternatives. And that is very important. And I must stress the point of the community engagement, which is very critical. Prof said something as she's introduced this session, that an informed listener, user, is an empowered user. And I think that is very critical at this point in time, to have more engagement, community engagement. When we talk about community engagement, it's not just only broken down or looking down at the individual home community. We should also be looking at business communities, market communities, specific business area communities. So imagine we have a production community like Aba, for example. You have a production community like Agbara, for example. You have a production community like Sapele, as the case may be, for example. And we start looking at the power needs of this community. Start seeing that, okay, what the current grid, how has it been able to sustain? What are the gaps? How can DAR step in to fill up the gaps? The gaps. These are very critical. And I must tell you sincerely, in Nigeria, there have been 1 or 2 of these pilot engagement that have succeeded. I'm going to be sharing some of them as we continue. And we have seen that this is working. So if this could work for market areas, production areas, or community, specialized communities like this, there's a need to talk more about it. There's a need to thank God CADEF is there for us that they are supposed to cater for. Then, of course, we'll now start looking at, okay, what are the gaps? What are the reforms? Then with this advocacy like such that we're having today, this can now engage key stakeholders on how to improve on participation in integration process. Very, very important. The benefit of integrated grids, they are so enormous. From the business side, the sustainability. Now, even for the area of the sustainability of the environment is so critical, because most of the business communities, the users, will rely on generating plants, which of course has increased the cost of maintenance and use have increased. But of course, in addition to that, we also need to consider the impact of this generating set on the environment. So it's been having negative impact by increasing our carbon footprint. But of course, with the integration of our grids and introduction of DARs, we can now start looking at solution energy sources will decongest and reduce our carbon footprint while giving us enhanced access to power. So this is very critical in several areas, in several factors. Of course, I must also talk of the benefit, the economic benefit is also going to be added in terms of providing more job opportunity, because as we're expanding our energy sources means, more people will be getting into that area. And of course, when we look at the value chain of those energy mix, more people are able to come in and it will drive our economy by providing more job opportunities. Well, let us also look at the key points. And I want to turn our attention to these particular areas. I want to quickly talk about real-world successful grid integration initiatives. Well, there was this hybrid mini project that was implemented in Nasarawa State, specifically the Toto community. That was the first to be implemented. So that has given to us a template that this is doable. It is possible. Currently now over there, about 2,800 households and businesses in the Toto community in Nasarawa, they are being powered by consistent renewable energy, which is the kind of integration we are talking about. Now, with the grid collapse and all that, for them, for that particular community, it does not affect them. And if you can see this diagram I have here, this is just a key representation of what we mean by the integration, the grid integration, where we have distributed energy sources that are integrated into the grid that are fed directly or that are fed into purpose use in the community. So even if they don't go to the general grid, they can be fed into community grid as for use for them. So this is very critical. And there are several other projects that are already ongoing in Nigeria as regarding that. The Rockefeller Foundation and Jeff Bezos Ed Fund are also working to do an unprecedented project that will be supplying about 10,000 megawatts of solar mini grid across Nigeria. That is going to be very massive. And there are several other ones that also exist, which we now need to advocate for more of these kind of projects. Now, you'll be asking me, what is the role of the community? How will the community be involved in all this matter? Like I explained, there's a need for more advocacy, explanation, clarification. And that clarification starts from every community understanding that they need to be able to meter their use, which is very critical. And unmetered power use is, we can't achieve an effective power distribution. So going down to the community, the business community, individual communities, we need to understand that there's a very high premium that we must place on ourselves, that we need to be accountable to metering. And when we talk about metering, metering starts from you understanding what is the capacity of power, what is the amount of power that I need in my household or in my business place per day. And I must tell you, if you permit me, let me share the website of the DAR website, which Prof talked about the other time. Let me stop sharing this and share the website quickly as I round up on that. Well, I hope the website is visible now.
Yes, please, Mr. Ojojinra.
Great. This is a very resourceful website. And I think that this is not just I think the takeaway of our discussion today should be this website. I have gone through it. I've seen a load of resources. And the one I want to call the attention of our listeners to is this solar calculator. I mean, well, it is the solar calculator, but it will also serve as a point of call to every community and users to start this engagement from there. When we understand the use, the amount of power that we have use of or we need. Now, when you go to this, if you click on this, it opens you up to the calculator where you can pick the equipment that you make use of in your house. Let's say I have a computer monitor. I state the wattage, I state the quantity, I add up the equipment. Let me just quickly pick another one. Let's say I have an air cooler. I state the wattage, I pick the quantity and add to it. And I generate a recommendation. This gives me the power recommendation that I need. You can see this. Of course, this is talking about a distributed energy source. But this is a point. So once I understand that this is my power requirement, of course, I'm able to aggregate, I'm able to plan myself, I'm able to remove sources or energy, things that drain my energy limit or my energy requirement. I'm able to do away with them and concentrate on what are the key things. If I'm a business owner, what are the machines? Which machines are very critical to my operations? I consider those ones first. Look at the power rating. Know that these are my critical power need. then of course I can still, once I'm demanding for this, and I know this is within my reach, I can focus on that. And as I begin to increase in capacity in terms of cost or in terms of payment ability, I'm able to scale and increase and add more equipment to this. This is very critical to the community. Because, of course, we can't talk about DERs without talking about appropriate metering. Metering is very, very critical to achieve a successful integration. Of course, with the metering, we talk about several smart solutions that will come into it to trigger things and here and there, which calls for more technological advancement. Our current grid cannot handle that. It's not smart enough to do that. That is why there's a need for an integrated grid system, which is very, very critical. So I call every participant, every one on this call to visit this site as a starting point of engagement to understand what is our power need, what is our individual power need, or our community power need, and see where we can take it off from there. You can see there are suggestions even there, the panels, the solar controller, the charge, and all that, and all that. So that is just by the way. Quickly, let me just return back to our discussion before I round up. I know I'm rounding up now to just look at what are the other areas of engagement that we also need to look at. Of course, I've mentioned for communities, for individuals, we need to look at that. Then, of course, we also need to look at what are the policymakers, what are they supposed to be doing at this point in time. Apart from just making policy, there's a need to consider that. And of course, we need to have bodies like CADEF to do more sensitization. And I must tell you, one of the areas that we should also look at is funding. Now, I have interacted with bodies, with DER providers, and the key gaps that they mentioned in terms of connecting their solutions, DDR solutions, to the community, integrating it into our grid, it has been finances, funding. Currently now, the banking, the finance sector in Nigeria, the template they use in financing power was derived from the traditional power grid operators, which definitely will not work for distributed energy sources type of template. So there's a need for the financial sector to modify that template to make it more inclusive to fund DAR project. That is very, very critical to the success of achieving grid integration in Nigeria. Very important. And of course, we need more of advocacy. We need more advocacy, more advocacy. This is the starting point of this call. We need more collaborative engagement with communities. And like I said, community is not just only the people community, business communities. We must start looking at these very important areas in the community, in the economy, and start looking at how to deploy integrated grids for this community. Very important. And of course, when we have the policymaker doing their thing, when we have infrastructure investment coming from the government, and we have advocacy group like CADEF coming up with more understanding or more clarity, empowering the users to understand what we mean by a grid integration using DAR. Of course, everybody will converge to a point whereby we can now achieve, if not 10, we can start talking about 20% adoption rate of DAR in Nigeria. Of course, it has to start from a step. The first step is what we have taken today already as it were, with engagement with our community. But of course, we need to do much more. And with that, I conclude by saying that to have a successful integration of DAR, of distributed energy sources, into our grid, it is important to address deliberately the current systems and to look at how to implement strategic actions. Some of them I've mentioned. And of course, to build a more resilient, sustainable, and economic and financially beneficial energy landscape and mix. Thank you so much for having me, and have a wonderful afternoon.
Thank you very much, Mr. Jedero. Thank you. At this point, I can even go and take a certificate on this course. You've provided you provided a clear picture. I mean, yeah, I can even show the traffic to understand the stage when so that base gives us on how we need to solutions. We'll talk next Dr. Mary Adedoyin, who will be speaking to us on the role of renewable energy in the next phase of Africa's industrial development. So Mr. Ojedira has talked to us about integration and what exactly the picture is now. Now, Dr. Mary will be telling us exactly the next phase. What will it look like for Africa in the industrial development? Dr. Mary, you're welcome. Ladies and gentlemen, please let's welcome Dr. Mary to take the floor.
All right. Thank you so much for having me here. I want to thank Prof. and the CADEF. I will be talking about the role of renewable energy in the next phase of Africa's industrial development. I'm Dr. Mary Adedoyin. I'm the Sub-Dean of Faculty of Engineering. I'm also a lecturer in Department of Electronics and Computer Engineering, Lagos State University. I will be talking on what should be the role of renewable energy in order to improve on our industry, access to our industry. So the outline of my presentation is what is being displayed on the screen. I will introduce us to the topic. Prof has already given us the introduction to what we are doing today about the distributed energy resources. And then we have also listened to the talk about how we can embrace these distributed energy resources. And like we have been told, an informed consumer is an empowered consumer. So we are going to look at what should be the roles of renewable energy. We want to look at energy landscape in Africa. We want to look at the potential of renewable energy, as well as the current state of industrialization in Africa, and then how renewable energy is going to be a catalyst for industrial transformation. So what is renewable energy? Well, renewable energy is energy that is derived from natural resources, and then they are processed as well, and they are constantly replenished and sustaining our energy need over time. Example of renewable energy, we have solar energy, that's energy from the sun. We have wind energy that is generated from wind turbines. We have hydropower that is from flowing water, such as rivers or dams. We have geothermal energy that is derived from the heat stored in the earth. And we have biomass energy, we have biogas, we have biofuel and all that is produced from organic materials, such as agricultural waste, plant, animal waste, and all that. So renewable energy actually is environmentally friendly. One, it reduces our reliance on fossil fuel. Although they may say the cost of initial installation is high, but I want to tell us it's going to pay off later. So we don't need to rely on fossil fuel. And that is why we are here, so that we can be informed. We want to see how to promote sustainability as well as reliability of renewable energy. I want to tell us, in my house, I've been using a solar system since I think 2019, before COVID, and is very good, and it reduces. I don't even use generator anymore. So I want to tell us that we need to promote renewable energy. And then what are the importance of renewable energy in Africa? The first one is sustainable growth. We can see that in Africa, we need sustainable growth. It's not that we are not growing, but our growing in industry must be sustained. So renewable energy sources has a way of providing us a clean and sustainable path for industrial development. I remember when I was in South Africa, They are using solar in most of the industry, and you can see 24/7 they were having lights. So this renewable energy will reduce our dependence on fossil fuel, and then the gas emission, that is the carbon dioxide that is produced as a result of combustion of all these gases causing health hazard, will reduce. And then renewable energy projects also create jobs. It attracts investments. It stimulates local economies, and it empowers our community, which leads to sustainable development. So there is economic empowerment. There is also energy security. It helps us to diversify into energy sources. We don't need to rely on imported fuels. Well, thank God for Dangote now, but then we still need to embrace and adopt renewable energy. I can see from the slide of our first presenter, we are just using only 2% of renewable energy. And that is why this advocacy is very good for us to be informed and to be empowered. So what are the limitations of the current energy sources for industrial expansion? The first thing is that this traditional energy, they are finite. That is, they are becoming scarce and then becoming more expensive. We know how much we are buying fuel now per liter. And this is raising energy costs and hindering long-term industrial growth. So we need to move on. We need to embrace, we need to transit into renewable energy. And also the extraction, transportation of fossil fuel is capital intensive. Refining it is capital intensive and all that. So our industry cannot continue to rely on fossil fuel. We have to look for alternatives that will work. Also, traditional energy sources are the largest contributors to greenhouse gas emissions. I think I've told us about that before, this climate change and all that. So industrial operations that is being powered by fossil fuel, they increase pressures from regulations, international agreements, and also we want to see how we can transit into renewable energy in order to reduce carbon footprints. And then developing regions like Nigeria will lack the infrastructure needed. We have been told about how that yesterday collapse happens to be the 12th time we experienced bridge collapse in Nigeria this year alone. So we can see that most of our infrastructure needs to be upgraded. And then we need to see that the next line of action is to embrace renewable energy. We can see pollution from traditional energy productions. They are so harmful to public health. They increase our medical costs, and it also reduces labor productivity, especially the community that is very close to extraction sites. They are suffering from air contamination, water contamination, and then all these create social resistance to industrial expansion. And that is another reason why we need to embrace renewable energy. So we don't need to depend on all this fossil fuel, and then we need to start thinking about renewable energy. So what are the roles of renewable energy? The first one is that it provides reliable and sustainable energy for industrial operations. And that is why I remember last week now in our organization, that is Nigerian Institute of Electrical and Electronic Engineers, in a Ibejuleki chapter, we talked about how we can make these solar projects to work. So we can use it to power our industry. And then it reduces costs, because lower energy costs is all this renewable energy, they come with lower energy costs compared to fossil fuel now. And then it reduces carbon emissions and combats climate change. It provides job opportunities. We've heard that from our first speaker. It generates employment. It also gives us energy access, can bridge the energy gap in rural and urban areas. It can be installed in rural areas. It can be, even if they don't have the infrastructure, is something that can be, we call it distributed energy resources. It can be deployed in modules. And then it promotes green energy initiative. You see, the environment is environmentally in Africa. You see that, and we are very close to the equator. So we then most of the African countries also are increasingly embracing renewable energy sources, such as in Kenya and Morocco as well. Then the challenges to adoption is one of the major issues that we have in Africa. Access to funding. That's why we need PPP, like Prof said the other time, that is private public partnership, infrastructure development, policy support, like we have had from the first lecture. So all this remains critical hurdles to widespread renewable energy adoption in Africa. And that is why we are having a webinar like this to see how to address these challenges and move forward in our continent. So what are the potential of renewable energy in transforming industry? The first one is that it will increase efficiency. Renewable energy, an industry that is being powered by renewable energy can achieve greater efficiency and reduce energy costs. It can form an innovation hub that will attract investment and ensure innovation, positioning of Africa as a leader in green technology. And also it empowers industry to adopt sustainable practices. That is what is obtainable in developed countries, and it can contribute to a cleaner environment as well. There is no noise when you are hearing the noise of generator, hearing this and all that. All those will be reduced. And then what are the current state of industrialization in Africa? We can see that manufacturing is on the rise across Africa now. That is driven by technological advancements and increased investments. And we can see that African countries are also they are exploring innovative technology, emerging technology from agriculture to healthcare and other industry as well across various industry. We can see the development of digital infrastructure as well that is being brought to Africa to connect industry and smart city. We are hearing about smart city, smart campus. For our industrial, and that is why that we are informed about it and we embrace it, we adopt it. And for innovation and ethics, space, we have energy system, we have smart, providing innovative way to address Africa energy challenges. So, and we need to think to embrace it, how to adopt it in our continent here. Government need to create supportive policy. Thank God for CADEF. Part of their role is to make sure that they hear us, make sure that one, consumers are informed, and also to shout out to the governments in order to create supportive policies that will help the consumer of energy. They are to provide incentives, subsidies, and regulations that will encourage investments in renewable energy project. All this must be presented to the government rule. And then there must be innovative financing models. All these include the PPP that we talked the other time, that is public-private partnership, blended finance, green bonds. All these will attract renewable energy projects. Are very important to look for expertise and resources, technology, infrastructure to deploy renewable energy in order to bridge the energy gap that we are having at the moment. So how do we overcome the challenges of renewable energy adoption? The first one is financing. We should be able to secure funding for large-scale renewable energy projects. It's still but it's something that we need to look at and how to see how to solve this problem. I think that is what CADEF, one of the things they are doing. They are doing a very nice. And then we have started on a good note in order to inform the community. The next thing is to make sure that all these are being presented to the appropriate authorities for us to build robust grid infrastructure in Nigeria and in Africa. Need to connect remote community. I remember when I was coming from Abuja the other day by road, and then I needed to do an online meeting in some community. If I get there, the network is not even there at all. So, but if you build all this, I guess one of the problems is the issue of energy in those areas. Maybe they don't even have access to energy at all. So we need to build a robust grid infrastructure to connect the unconnected remote communities, especially. And then there should be clear policy to encourage investment in renewable energy technology. All these must be given to the government. And how do we overcome these challenges? You need the solution includes targeted investments, capacity building programs, webinar workshop that we are doing now, technology transfer policy reforms, and also grid integration like we had in the first lecture. We need to modernize our grid infrastructure. Very important, provide smart meters, smart structure. All these are very important for us to have grid integration and to implement energy storage system and solutions. All these, they are very important for seamless integration of renewable energy sources. And then what's renewable energy as a catalyst? It can improve and leads to industrial growth, crop yields, and food security. Not even in rural community. I remember the School of Agric at the time, they had the first land of land. I think that time they planted corn in particular. And I remember there was no irrigation system, and that was how the whole thing dried up. So, but if we have solar powered irrigation system, it's going to improve crop yields, improve food security. As even in manufacturing industries, renewable energy powers factory, reduce sustainable production practices. We can also venture into eco-tourism that will utilize renewable energy that will attract environmentally conscious travelers and supporting local economy to come to Africa as well. In some places like Cape Town, most of their tourism center, they are powered with solar. In fact, most homes, they are powered with solar, and they've done it in such a way that they have all this smart infrastructure, even if it is during the day, during the sun period time. The second, they have switched over to maybe wind in the night and all that. So all this will improve and transform the industrial growth. So what are the benefits of renewable energy in African countries? First is that it reduces air pollution, it improves public health, it creates a cleaner environment and clean air for us to breathe in. Then it mitigates climate change. African commitment to renewable energy will contribute to global efforts to combat climate change. And then hydropower as a source of one of the sources of renewable energy in Africa. And you know, that is one of the goals of SDG to be able to manage water and conserve water management in Africa and even globally. So those are the environmental benefits of renewable energy. And then there are some African countries that are successfully leveraging on renewable energy. We have Kenya. The other time I told us about Kenya. The country is generating as well as geothermal energy. And we have Morocco as well. Their own plan is that by 2030, they are going to be generating 52% of their electricity from renewable energy. So before then, I want to tell us that even in Africa, we also should start thinking about how we need to adopt renewable energy. Yes, I just want to tell us that if you see the first picture here, so we have the LASSO Research Fair. This was in 2022, and I copied this one from the calendar of LASSO last year, I think 2023 calendar. I can't remember the months. I was the one in the middle there. We are trying to promote renewable energy. And this is the representative of the state governments, and we have our Senate member, council members, and all that. And this is another award that we are collecting here as a result of promoting renewable energy. We've had so many awards, like we have had the other time, even recently. Faculty of Engineering, Lagos State University, we won the overall Best Innovator Award at the last research and fair and innovation. What we did, most of the projects that we were promoting at the conference, they are solar powered projects. We have solar powered iron, we have solar powered cooker, we have solar powered I think waste bin. Most of our projects now, we are promoting renewable energy, in particular solar power. You can see me here with my students. This is CNT during the exhibition as well. We have some students that are sure here is when I got the fellow of the Nigerian Institute of Electrical and Electronics Engineering. Here, most of my projects that I'm working on, they are on solar energy and how to promote renewable energy. You can see some of my students, their projects, we are encouraging them to make sure that whatever project, this one is solar power street lights, it will not be visible. And most of this award I'm getting, I was having here, they are from renewable energy projects that research. The key points that I'll be talking about is that renewable energy is not just a clean energy source, it's a powerful driver of Africa's economic growth and industrial transformation. If we harness this potential, Africa can achieve energy independence, we can create jobs, we can protect the environment, we can build a sustainable future for generations to come, and then there should be a shift from fossil fuel dependence to renewable energy-powered industrialization. So that is it. And then governments, businesses, and communities must invest in renewable energy solutions. We as consumers, we should start thinking on how we are going to invest in renewable energy solutions. Especially we have, like I told us the other time, we are very close to the equator. We have abundant sun. We can actually get a lot from renewable
Thank
energy
you so
solutions.
much. Thank
So
you.
I want to say that we need to move forward with action, innovation, and collaboration. And we can see a case study of CADEF in their website. That was what I was about to. And presently, we are working on a project. I've dropped the link on the chat box for us to want to hear from us so that we can address the questionnaire and then the responses and present. We want to present it to Lagos State government, especially. We are looking at how to make Lagos State run on renewable energy. You. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Adedoyin. Thank you so much. Thank you. You've provided very deep insights, and we're grateful for all that you have unpacked in your presentation. Awesome. Because we need to take a few questions before we have to round off. So the next speaker is Mr. Joseph Young, who will be talking about identifying policy gaps and recommendations for improvement. Net metering.
Having me. It says that if you give somebody a fish every day, they will practically not learn how to feed themselves. So for me, how to fish, no civilization has ever progressed without solid energy. For us at Just Stand Out and Light Up a Precious Life and Nigerians for Super Energy, we say DSERA or die, which means D for decentralization, S for storage, which is one of the most important things as you're looking at renewable energy, E for efficiencies, which is the first thing you need to do when you're planning for a renewable energy project. Recycling, R for recycling and repurposing. And the last but not the least is artificial intelligence. And for us, we use the term artificial intelligence that can open or close the relay, works for us. With that, I would move over to the topic at hand today. And let me share this. Okay, so I will be talking today about net metering and feed-in tariffs. So just an overview and also a definition. Net metering is technically when I produce quite a lot of power, either as a residential or even a commercial entity, and I can, this goes. While feed-in tariff is technically a fixed amount and it's normally agreed to over a certain period that if I build a renewable energy plant, I can hook it up to the grid and I will be paid that amount. That amount is normally over and above what would be paid for regular fossil plants. And the purpose of this is to encourage renewable energy investments, reduce our environmental goals. One of the things that we always talk about is it's lovely to live in Africa. However, in the past decade, that whole green thing about Africa is practically gone. There are lots of places today in Africa that the environment has been degraded. And so if you go to some places in Europe or in the US, they actually have better environmental environments than we do have. So what's the role of renewable energy in the adoption of this? We were talking earlier on about the price for hooking up into the feed-in tariff needs to be better. So what are those financial, talking about taxes and things like that? Reducing technical and continues to baffle me is that currently we have the Global Climate Fund, and I had the opportunity to go through training together by the African Development Bank, and only 5% of the fund allocated to Africa has been accessed. So we make them work for our citizens. And it collapse. So we technically do what is called disturbance, because collapse is really too much for us to have anymore. Since it's what we have so far here. So,
Mr. Young, you're and also a lot of what has been said, the opportunities that we have before us that we can maximize or even leverage. Part of what we have done as CADEF, with the full support of our partner, Jacob's Ladder Africa, is to provide a platform for young people to come up with renewable energy solutions that are sustainable. So they've had the opportunity to come up with those ideas, and they had the time to. Some of you were part of the conversation when they had to come and do the demo of some of the things they had come up with. Right now, they are in the incubation stage. So we didn't just give them a platform to present their ideas. Now we are grooming them to make sure that some of these solutions actually become reality, become a reality and become sustainable businesses for the future. So yes, these things are possible. These things are right before. Some of them came up with very brilliant sustainable ideas in the renewable energy space, and they are currently being incubated to be able to, move on and be able to establish and register businesses that will succeed, especially for Nigeria. So also we have the DER platform that some of the speakers have spoken about. You'll see the link in the chat box. You just go there, you get as much information as you require on how you can even go renewable from your space. These things some people believe are very expensive, but I tell you, like Dr. Adedoyin said, at the initial stages, it looks like that, but in the long run, you find that you have made a very good decision a lot of times. So please feel free to check out the website. You can use the solar calculator to see how much energy or what you require in terms of capacity for you to set up your own renewable energy, whatever it is, whether solar or wind or whatever you want to use. So please feel free to check out the websites. If you have any questions after checking out, you can reach us. You can reach CADEF. You can ask your questions. You can even suggest, you make your suggestions as to how we can make things better. I see Mr. Yang is back. Mr. Yang, if you're back, please, you can go ahead.
I was at, I was talking about the grid and then my IPNX decided to collapse. Um, so, so promoting stability and grid diversification. One of the things about the grid is that we need to build more robust grids. Even the US is going towards decentralization of grids, which means, yes, we have a whole framework of a grid. However, we have subgrids within those grids so that if something happens within a subgrid, it just takes down that particular area as opposed to taking the whole network down. I think something happened a few months ago when I think it was Akwa Ibom that stayed online because they had kind of isolated themselves from the rest of the national grid. So they were able to continue going um, while the national grid was down. However, fast forward a few months after that, their gas supplier decided not to supply them gas, and so they were down, and they couldn't benefit too much from the national grid. So that's it. Okay, just again, the current landscape in Nigeria, again, we are over-reliance on fossil fuels. Our infrastructure, limited, very limited investments. What are the challenges? Regulatory gaps. I think one of the things that happens is double or triple or quadruple taxation happens. Infrastructure deficiencies are actually a challenge. High initial cost. One of the things that continues to create problems for us is the FX situation in country. And then we have policy inconsistencies. And last but not the least, community awareness, which is always key when you're trying to decentralize the setup. Now, in 2016, okay, NECT had introduced that at least 50% of renewable power, should be coming from renewables. However, the latest information I had as I was working on this project was actually that they are now saying 50% of embedded power. Embedded power just means the discos are not doing that and it's coming from anywhere. They are saying 50% of that 50% should be renewable. That's what they're looking for. So small, large scale facilities and also auction processes for larger projects. So recommendations for policy improvement, we're talking about strengthening frameworks, clear guidelines and standard contracts, tiered fits for varying producer scales, because one size cannot fit all. And that's really, really, really very important to make sure that fits really work. And if you notice, I've been concentrating more on the fits because net metering technically cannot really work in Nigeria today, but it's something that we can look at in the future. One, we have a drawback of even having enough meters in country. And then the question is, when you have those meters, would you be able to have a stable grid that works, that somebody will be able to do that? So modernize our grid system. We've been speaking about CADEF, which everybody knows about, and also it has still not been done. It doesn't been deployed. That's a good thing. In low interest rates grants, most of the funds that are being pushed through commercial banks today in Nigeria are really high. I went into a meeting and we're talking about 31% interest rates. Nothing is going to happen at that amount. Engagement with community and governments, really, really important. More the community knows about it and more they know the benefits, it's really going to work. else is actually people say what they're going to do. We say that if you have they go to studio, we are not in chef, we are in actually to planting facts on the ground. Like I said, no civilization has been able to progress without energy. We have lessons just like the last speaker had shown different places, Germany, India, South Africa. Again, those are things that we could look to. And robust policies, community living projects, and flexible and innovative financing. So, call to action. For getting improved policies, collaborating with stakeholders, which is what we are doing today, to make sure that things happen. The famous trick saying, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And last but not least, again, educating communities on renewable energy benefits. Between, like I said earlier on, is more difficult to deliver, while benefits are actually more durable, and we should encourage more of that to happen. So we need to address challenges through collaboration. Like I said, once it goes fast, we go really further. And last but not least, together we can achieve sustainable and inclusive energy for the future. We say that we like to reach the kilowatt divide. The total divide has been breached. In the 80s, it used to take about a month for me to call my late parents who stay on the phone constantly from the States. Today, great grandma or grandma or grandpa in my village can do a video call their kids anywhere. So that digital divide technically has been breached, but our divide is really wide and deep. With that, I would like to say thanks again for the opportunity to share my ideas.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Yang. Unfortunately, the providers have refused to let us hear everything you have said, but we heard a lot of what you have said, and we are grateful for the insights that you have provided, especially with regards to net metering. Now we'll just take a few questions. We are already behind time, but if we can take each question for a minute, please, we will be able to, or even less than that, we'll be able to take some of the questions before we have to. So I'll take this one very quickly. Adelana says, what end-of-life management system is in place for renewable energy devices? Recently, there is an influx of second solar panels and repurposed EV batteries in the country. This may constitute nuisance into our environment very soon. What do we do to them after their useful life? Mr. Jediro, do you think you can take this one? So the question is about what we can do with, yes, repurposed EV batteries and stuff.
All right. Well, there are solutions on that regard as per how to convert those electronic scraps or electronic waste actually into more, to repurpose them into efficient or other uses. That is ongoing currently. But of course, that is also a very important area of concern that we need to be looking at as we talk about renewable energy. What do we do to this electronic waste that is going to be generated? Of course, there are other technologies that make use of these waste and use them to generate other technologies that are also renewable energy sources as well. So eventually, it won't be a waste, as it were. But if we can also focus on that area, which is a very smart question to note, then we can now start looking at the value chain of those equipment and to see that we maximize their use even after the afterlife.
Okay, thank you for that. Very quickly, Dr. Adedoyin, I know we have even in some of we've listened on is asking, can we do as a nation to ensure apply, considering the frequent. Dr. Adedoyin, are you here? Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Sorry, did you get the no, it's okay. You can just so they're wondering what
Still
can
hear the
we
question again,
do?
sorry, please.
What can we
No,
do
just speak.
considering the frequent energy grid failures? What really can we do?
Failure. I think, like we said in the course of presentation, the first thing is that as a country, I guess our leaders, they are going outside the country. They see the first thing that we need to do is that we need to upgrade our infrastructure. That's the first thing. Most of those infrastructure that we are using, they are outdated. So they need to get good infrastructure that we need to put in place, and then go to outside the country that they are really, that they are working, that they have success story to share about energy. Let us send some of our engineers there to go and learn, study them. Let's see how they are doing it, what is making it to work for them, that at home.
Yes.
The first speaker spoke about, I think, Britain, about maybe just 4-time collapse. Why can't we go there, go and learn, go and understudy them? How are they doing it? Then come back here. And I think in Nigeria, we need people that can talk. Our leaders, they need to talk. Yes, they need to talk to them.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Maya. We need people that can talk. You know, that's I totally agree with you. I agree with what you have said. So because we are running behind time, we quickly want to take a few more questions before we have to go. So this is not looking like a question. Olamilekan says, "Thank you, Dr. Adedoyin, for that insightful presentation. I think our efforts should be multi-sourced renewable energy, as you have mentioned. I just want to point out, as an agric expert, that solar energy may be a better option for northern Nigeria due to clear cloud compared to southern Nigeria. Nigeria is also generating tons of food and agro waste, which is a major source of biomass for biogas generation. Combining these renewable energy sources would help Nigeria to quickly arrive at our energy dreams." I agree. If you check the DER website, the DER CADEF website, you will even find we have the map that indicates that in the north, they have when they say Nigeria is blessed with good sunlight, I think in the north, you will agree that they have very serious sunlight there. So I believe solar energy will work very well there. Peter Oluka has a question. He says, what economic incentives can be introduced to encourage renewable energy adoption? Prof, do you want to take this one? What economic incentives can be introduced to encourage renewable energy adoption?
Well,
maybe let me just add the second one so in time. What incentives can be introduced to encourage renewable energy solution adoption? And then he's asking, do you think the government is doing enough to integrate renewable energy into the country's energy mix?
Thank you very much. Thank you to the speakers. Just as things have been said by the different speakers, I do know Mr. Bolaji had mentioned that it should be both individual as well as business incentives. So you have to have incentives from tax incentives for the businesses that are adopting solar energy or biomass energy, which of those. You have to remove tariffs, because 99% of the products that we're using for solar energy is being imported. So there is a need for complete tariff removal over a period of time, so that the taxes and VATs associated with alternative energy adoption is totally removed. There also has to be a collaboration. The government needs to introduce a collaboration incentives between businesses and the educational institution, because that's where innovation, quick innovation can start and take over. So there has to be incentives for educational institutions to partner with government. There has to be, I was just on a workshop yesterday in South Africa, where the PPPs that are being talked about, USAID is now encouraging PPPs for the USA businesses to partner with African. And so pushing our government to be part of this project, Africa Light Now, is going to also equip, because they're financing, they're bringing in their loan incentives that the financial institutions should be encouraged to have. These are long-term investments, so you don't want to institute where the interest rates are in the double digits. Nobody will take it up. And so grants and loans should be something that the government should do. And then also, as important as Mr. Bolaji has said, is a need to modify the financing template that does not think of DER when it was being put together. So the financing template for distributed energy resources has to be modified to become more inclusive. And so over here in CADEF, we're very willing to together, where it just moves from talking to doing.
Thank you. Thank you, Prof. Thank you so much for that. Says, last week I had a tour in a very big factory around the Djibouti area of Ogun State. There I discovered that they don't have connection with national grid. They depend on solar and gas to generate power. I saw pictures of our prominent political leaders, including past ministers, vice presidents. Why has our government not been giving maximum support to relevant industries in the country, such as tertiary institutions, business hubs like Computer Village, among others? Yeah, I really don't know why, and I'm not sure anybody actually has that answer. We will do what we can do. That's really what I will say. All of us have to new solutions so that we can move forward and, provide sustainable solutions for ourselves and for the country at large. Lamilekon says, I think there is no advanced countries in the world having one source of energy. They use combined sources: hydro, nuclear, biomass, solar, wind, hydrogen, gas, etc. That's also true. I agree. So that's really what we're advocating here. Just the last one. Somebody is asking the difference between biogas and biomass. That's Mohammed Alade asking that. Mr. Ojadiro, can you please provide, if you have that answer, please? You want to know biogas, biomass, what's the difference?
Okay. Well, as I do that, I'm also sharing something on the screen right away. Good enough. I think Mr. Dr. Olabelekon also shared even that difference there on the chart. That for biomass, these are from plants and animal wastes that are used as feedstock for generating biogas. And biogas are actually methane generated anaerobic digestion of plant and animal waste. So basically, biogas, they are methane generated energy, while biomass are from the waste of plant and animals that are converted to energy sources. And quickly in 30 seconds, just look at what I also shared as well. I think it's also very important for listeners that for a fossil fuel generator, your normal petrol generator, you will buy a fossil fuel generator for 150,000 naira average, and you will fuel it 5,000 naira for 20 days, which will give you power for about 3 hours plus. With that, you are going to spend about 250,000 naira in 1 month with the purchase of the generator and 5,000 of fuel for 20 days. And over 6 months, you would have spent about 1.5 million naira actually on that. If you invested 1.5 million naira in a renewable energy source, of course, it's possible that you are going to have definitely more energy at more than 3 hours. And of course, if you do that, you have spent in advance. And of course, the next 6 months or 1 year, you're not going to spend this 5,000. So, when I hear that it is expensive, it is actually not expensive, actually. It is cheaper. But that model of presentation to most, to the community is that, the cost is 1.5 million, it's too much. That is why we need to also engage community sponsorship, finance sponsorship model as well, where community can pull up resources together, deploy it, and maybe homes of 100 or 50 can benefit from that renewable energy source deployed in their community rather than individuals deploying it for their own use. I think that's also important to take away. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. That's a very good way to end this conversation. The figures are right before you. Sounds like you take your pick. All right. Thank you so much to all of the speakers. Those are very, very insightful perspectives that you have provided. Thank you for your incredible contributions. Thank you, Mr. Yang. Thank you, Dr. Adedoyin. Thank you, Mr. Ojediro. Thank you, our dear Prof. We have enjoyed ourselves, and we know that, like I said, if you give me a certificate now and call me a renewable energy expert, I won't say no to that. I would like to also say one-stop shop platform, the renewable. We call it the Renew Energy Niger. That's how we call it. So we want you to interact with that platform. If you are a vendor, if you are a solar vendor, please, we have the platform there for you to register so that you can also get to meet people who would like to engage you or your services on that platform as well. So it's really robust. It's a platform for everyone to come and learn. If you want to install, if you need to buy, don't buy from Pape Mecca that's imports from Aba. Please, I beg you. You need to know what it is you're buying. You need to know how it is installed. You need to be able to keep track of these things. So that's really our call. Ultimately, please let this conversation continue. Don't think it's too much. Don't think it is too difficult. Don't think it is not achievable. I tell you, it is achievable. When I saw 2% for Nigeria, I'm like, oh gosh, how? But I mean, I believe these things are possible. That's why I'm happy with what Dr. Adedoyin had presented about what LASU is doing. I'm happy about that. If more schools can take that on, I tell you, we're on our way to very great times. And I'm grateful to Jacob's Ladder Africa for really how they are pushing things, not just in Kenya, but across Africa. And I'm also thankful for CADEF and the charge that CADEF has taken to make sure that the future looks exactly how God has ordained for it to look. I'm grateful for everyone on this call that has stayed with us. We know the people that support us, and you're one of them. We are happy to always have you here. I know the people that have become CADEF, and there are some of them are on this call. We are grateful. We are grateful to all of our partners. Thank you so much. This conversation will be published on YouTube, so you can please go ahead and engage, especially if there were parts of it that you missed. Also, please engage with us on our social media platforms, and let's keep in touch. We always love to keep in touch at CADEF. Thank you again, everyone. Thank you. And this is where we draw the curtain. Thank you so much. And we'll see you again soon. Bye.
Thank you so much, everybody. Bye.
Bye. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.